First contact with human combat. Professor Xylax's crystalline form shimmered with anticipation as he materialized in front of his class at the Galactic Academy's Earth Studies Department. His 23 students, representing 17 different species from across the known universe, settled into their adaptive learning pods, their various sensory organs focused intently on their instructor. Today, Xylax announced, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber, we begin our most controversial module, Human Combat History. The professor's outer layer flickered with patterns of blue and gold, indicating both excitement and caution. Rixus, a gaseous entity contained within a smart matter shell, pulsed with confusion. Professor, I thought humans were accepted into the Galactic Federation because they achieved peace. An excellent observation, Xylax replied, his crystal facets refracting light in complex patterns. But to understand human peace, we must first understand their warfare. Computer, display Artifact Earth, MW 2024. A holographic projection materialized in the center of the classroom, showing two ancient human warriors locked in sword combat. The alien students recoiled collectively, their various physiologies expressing shock in different ways. Klaxi, an arachnoid student, pulled in several of her legs closer to her thorax. What you're witnessing, Xylax continued, is what humans call dueling. Yes, they actually stood within striking distance of each other, using sharpened metal toe. He paused as several students emitted distress pheromones. I understand this is disturbing, but remember, we're studying history. Verix, a silicon-based crystalline being like the professor, raised a faceted appendage. But surely this is primitive history, perhaps from their Stone Age. Xylax's form sparkled with what his students recognized as amusement. This particular scene is from merely 500 Earth years ago. In fact, humans still practice these combat forms today, though usually for sport and tradition rather than settling disputes. The classroom erupted in a cacophony of shocked clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses. Xylax waited for the commotion to settle before continuing. What truly sets humans apart isn't their capacity for violence. Many species have that. It's their systematic study of combat, their codification of warfare, and most importantly, their ability to transform conflict into art. The professor projected a new series of images, human martial arts demonstrations, military parades, and fencing competitions. Observe how they've preserved these combat forms, even in their age of energy weapons and quantum torpedoes. While other species abandoned their primitive warfare methods, humans celebrated and refined theirs. Nexus, a collective consciousness inhabiting a metallic mesh, rippled with curiosity. Professor, are you suggesting this retention of combat knowledge provided humans with an advantage? Precisely. Xylax's crystalline form pulsed with brilliant light. Humans call it muscle memory. By maintaining connections to their combat heritage, they developed unique neural pathways that make them exceptionally adaptable in crisis situations. The professor moved to the center of the room, his crystalline form refracting the holographic images in dazzling patterns. But here's what truly fascinating. Humans developed thousands of different combat styles, each adapted to their diverse environments and cultures. Computer, display global martial arts distribution. A rotating Earth appeared, dotted with countless points of light representing different fighting styles. The alien students watched in fascination as lines connected related combat forms, creating a complex web of martial knowledge. While our species generally developed single, optimized methods of defense, Xylax explained, humans embraced diversity in combat as they did in all things. This led to constant innovation through competition and exchange. Rixus pulsed again, their gaseous forms swirling with interest. Is this why humans were able to advance from primitive weapons to space travel so quickly? An insightful question, Xylax replied. Humans' martial nature drove them to develop increasingly sophisticated weapons. But paradoxically, it also taught them the importance of restraint. They learned, through countless conflicts, that the greatest victory often lies in choosing not to fight. The professor's form dimmed slightly, adopting a more serious tone. For next class, you'll each be assigned a human martial art to study, not to practice. He added quickly as several students recoiled, but to analyze. Understanding how humans think about combat is crucial to understanding how they think about peace. As the class ended and his students filed out, their forms expressing a mixture of fascination and apprehension, Xilax reflected on how their perspectives had already begun to shift. Humans weren't simply the war-prone species many in the galaxy assumed them to be. They were complex, contradictory, and endlessly surprising, perhaps the perfect teachers for a universe that sometimes seemed too set in its ways. Little did his students know, this was just the beginning of their journey into understanding humanity's remarkable relationship with conflict and peace. The next class would challenge their preconceptions even further as they delved into the psychology that drove humans to fight, and more importantly, to stop fighting. The psychology of war. The Galactic Academy's mobile learning chamber hummed softly as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. Inside, Professor Xilax's students pressed against the quantum glass windows, their various sensory organs taking in their first real view of the notorious human homeworld. Notice, Professor Xilax's crystalline voice resonated, how they've preserved their ancient battlefields alongside their modern cities. His form sparkled as he gestured toward the sprawling museum complex below. Today, we visit the Global Military History Center. Klaxi chittered nervously, her arachnoid form shifting in her adaptation pod. Professor, are you certain it's safe? I've heard humans still experience combat impulses. An understandable concern, Xilax replied, his crystalline structure emitting calming blue wavelengths. But remember, humans have mastered the art of containing their aggressive tendencies. In fact, that's precisely what we're here to study. As the chamber landed, the students were greeted by Dr. Isabella Hammond, the museum's chief historian. Her presence immediately caused a stir among the alien students. Most had never been this close to a human before. Welcome to Earth, Dr. Hammond smiled, seemingly unfazed by the diverse array of alien forms before her. Today, we'll explore humanity's journey from warriors to peacekeepers, though I must warn you, some exhibits might be unsettling. The first hall they entered contained psychological profiles of human warriors throughout history. Holographic displays showed brain scans during various combat scenarios, while environmental simulators reproduced the biochemical cocktail of human battle stress responses. Nexus, the collective consciousness, rippled with fascination. The neural activity patterns, they're simultaneously chaotic and structured. How is this possible? Dr. Hammond nodded appreciatively. What you're observing is the interplay between our instinctive responses and our trained behaviors. Humans are unique in our ability to function effectively under extreme stress, largely because we've learned to harness our fear response rather than suppress it. The next exhibition caused several students to emit distress signals. It demonstrated humanity's concept of war games, elaborate training exercises involving thousands of participants. You deliberately simulate large-scale conflict. Rixus pulsed incredulously, their gaseous form swirling with agitation. Isn't that dangerous? Quite the opposite, Dr. Hammond explained. These exercises actually prevent wars. By maintaining readiness and understanding our capabilities, we reduce the likelihood of actual conflict. We call it peace through strength. Professor Xilax's form sparkled with approval. Notice, students, the apparent paradox. Humans prepare for war to maintain peace. It's a concept many species find difficult to grasp. As they moved through the museum, Dr. Hammond led them to a special exhibition titled The Evolution of Command. The display showed how human military leadership had developed from brutal warlords to strategic commanders who valued minimizing casualties on all sides. The most significant advancement in human military thinking, Dr. Hammond explained, wasn't a weapon or tactic, but the realization that the best victory is one achieved without fighting. Varix raised a crystalline appendage. But then why maintain such powerful military forces? Because, Dr. Hammond smiled. The capability to fight makes it easier to choose not to. When both sides understand the cost, diplomacy becomes more attractive. The final exhibit of the day showcased humanity's modern military doctrine, a complex integration of defensive capabilities, diplomatic initiatives, and humanitarian operations. Today, Dr. Hammond explained, Earth's combined military forces spend more time delivering disaster relief and maintaining peace than engaging in combat. We've learned to turn our warrior instincts toward protecting and building rather than destroying. As the students prepared to leave, Claxie approached Dr. Hammond, her initial fear replaced by curiosity. "Your species confuses me," she admitted. "You maintain the ability to wage war while dedicating yourselves to peace. How do you manage this contradiction?" Dr. Hammond's expression grew thoughtful. "Perhaps it's not a contradiction at all. Understanding our capacity for violence helps us choose a better path. We've learned that true strength lies not in the ability to take life, but in the wisdom to preserve it." Back in the learning chamber, Professor Zolax observed his students deep in discussion, their various forms expressing a mix of emotions. They were beginning to understand that human military psychology wasn't simply about aggression. It was about the complex interplay between power and responsibility. "Tomorrow," he announced, his crystalline form glowing softly, "we'll examine how humans transform their understanding of combat through technological innovation." And perhaps, he added, noting the growing interest in his students' expressions, "we'll begin to understand why the Galactic Federation considers humanity's unique perspective so valuable." The learning chamber rose into the darkening Earth sky, carrying students whose understanding of humanity had been irrevocably changed. They had come expecting to study a species of warriors, only to discover something far more intriguing. A civilization that had learned to use its martial heritage as a foundation for peace, technology, and warfare. The holographic chamber at the Galactic Academy's Earth Studies Department hummed to life, transforming the room into a perfect recreation of an ancient human battlefield. Professor Xilax's crystalline form reflected the simulated flames of primitive cannons as his students observed from their adaptive pods. "What you're witnessing," he announced, "is perhaps the most dramatic technological leap in human military history: the development of gunpowder." Nexus's metallic mesh rippled with electromagnetic pulses of curiosity. "Professor, our historical records show this chemical reaction was discovered on multiple worlds. Why did it have such a unique impact on human development?" "An excellent question," Xilax responded, his facets glowing brighter. "Computer temporal acceleration." The battlefield scene began to advance rapidly through time. Primitive cannons evolved into sophisticated artillery, simple muskets transformed into automatic weapons, and basic rockets became intercontinental missiles. Most species, Xilax explained, took centuries to progress through each stage of weapons development. Humans did it in decades, but here's what's truly fascinating. Observe their non-military technological progress during the same period. The holographic display split, showing parallel timelines of military and civilian technological advancement. The students watched in amazement as warfare consistently drove innovation. Military aircraft leading to commercial aviation, radar systems evolving into weather prediction tools, nuclear weapons research spawning peaceful nuclear power. Rixus pulsed thoughtfully, their gaseous forms swirling. They turned instruments of destruction into tools of progress. "Precisely," came a new voice. The students turned to see Commander Jasmine Torres of the Earth Defense Force entering the chamber. Her uniform bore the insignia of both Earth and the Galactic Federation. "Permission to join today's lesson, Professor?" she asked, smiling as Xilax's crystal form pulsed an affirmative. "Commander Torres will help us understand how humanity's military technology evolved into what we see today," Xilax explained. The commander activated her neural interface, and the holographic display shifted to show modern military installations. "What you're seeing now is how we've adapted our warfare technology for peaceful purposes. These orbital defense platforms. They track space debris and redirect asteroids. Our quantum torpedoes. We use them to clear paths for deep space exploration. Flaxi raised several legs in a gesture of confusion. But you maintain their military capabilities. We do, Torres nodded, because we learned something crucial about technology. It's neutral. The same engine that powers a warship can power a hospital. The same AI that guides a missile can guide a rescue drone. It's not the technology that defines us, but how we choose to use it. The display shifted again, showing the development of human cybernetic augmentation. This technology, Torres continued, began as a way to help injured soldiers return to combat. Now it helps millions of civilians live better lives. We call it swords to plowshares, turning weapons into tools. Varix's crystalline form sparkled with sudden understanding. Is this why humans advanced so quickly after joining the Federation? You already had the technological foundation. Exactly, Commander Torres smiled. When we gained access to galactic technology, we already understood the principles of adaptation and repurposing. It's not just about creating new technology. It's about imagining new ways to use what you have. Professor Xilax moved to the center of the room, his form refracting the holographic light in complex patterns. Commander, perhaps you could explain the concept of technological deterrence. Torres nodded, bringing up a new display showing Earth's current defense grid. The most advanced technology we possess isn't for fighting wars, it's for preventing them. Our quantum detection arrays, our planetary shield network, our consciousness backup systems, they all serve to make warfare so costly that diplomatic solutions become the only logical choice. Nexus pulsed with curiosity. But surely such power could be abused. That's why we developed parallel technologies in transparency and accountability, Torres explained. Every weapons system we maintain is monitored by both Earth oversight committees and Galactic Federation observers. We believe that true security comes from openness, not secrecy. The holographic display now showed a final image, Earth's first contact with the Galactic Federation. When we met our galactic neighbors, Torres continued, we were ready not because of our weapons, but because our pursuit of military technology had taught us the importance of defense, diplomacy, and cooperation. As the class drew to a close, Professor Xilax noticed his students' expressions had changed. The fear and apprehension they'd shown in earlier lessons had been replaced by understanding and respect. For next time, he announced, his crystalline form pulsing softly, consider this. How has humanity's technological evolution influenced their current role in galactic peacekeeping? Commander Torres will be joining us again to discuss Earth's contribution to the Federation's defense protocols. As the students filed out, discussing excitedly among themselves, Xilax turned to Torres. They're beginning to understand, he observed. Yes, she agreed, watching the diverse group of alien students. They're learning what we learned, that the true measure of technological advancement isn't in its destructive potential, but in how it can be used to protect and preserve life. The holographic chamber dimmed, but the lessons of human ingenuity and adaptation continued to resonate in the minds of the alien students. They were starting to grasp that humanity's rapid technological advancement wasn't just about creating better weapons, it was about transforming the very concept of what technology could achieve. The art of peace. The Galactic Academy's diplomatic simulation chamber whirred to life as Professor Xilax and his students materialized within a perfect recreation of the historic First Galactic Peace Conference. The crystalline professor's form glowed softly as he gestured to the empty seats around the circular table. Today, he announced, we examine humanity's most remarkable achievement, their transformation from warriors to peacekeepers. Ambassador Reyna Patel stepped into the chamber, her traditional diplomatic robes blending Earth's cultural elements with Galactic Federation designs. The alien students straightened in their adaptation pods, recognizing one of humanity's most respected negotiators. The greatest weapon humans ever developed, Ambassador Patel began, wasn't a bomb or a battleship. It was understanding. The simulation changed, showing various diplomatic missions throughout human history. We learned that true power lies not in forcing others to submit, but in finding common ground. Our military background, surprisingly, helped us excel at this. Rixes swirled thoughtfully in their containment field. How does combat experience translate to peacekeeping? Strategy. Patel smiled. Understanding conflict helps prevent it. We know the cost of war firsthand, so we work harder to maintain peace. But we also understand that peace must be actively maintained. It's not a passive state. The simulation shifted to show Earth's current role in galactic peacekeeping operations. Human diplomats worked alongside alien species, resolving conflicts across the galaxy. Their unique approach, combining military precision with diplomatic flexibility, had revolutionized interstellar relations. Humans, Professor Xilax added, his crystal form pulsing with approval, brought something unique to galactic diplomacy: the warrior diplomat perspective. They understand both the art of war and the art of peace. As the final simulation faded, Ambassador Patel faced the students directly. Tomorrow, you'll participate in your first diplomatic exercise. Remember, peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of justice and understanding. The lesson ended with the students deep in thought, preparing for their greatest challenge yet. Final assessment, the ultimate test. The Academy's main simulation chamber had been transformed into a complex scenario environment. Professor Xilax's students, now in their final session, faced a simulated interstellar crisis. Your challenge, Xilax announced, his crystalline form radiating intense light, is to prevent a war between two advanced civilizations. You'll use everything you've learned about human military history, technology, and diplomacy. The simulation began. Each student took on a different role, some as mediators, others as military advisors or cultural interpreters. They had to navigate complex alliances, technological disparities, and cultural misunderstandings. Hours passed as the alien students applied their newfound knowledge. Klaxi used her understanding of human tactical analysis to identify potential flashpoints. Nexus applied lessons from Earth's diplomatic history to build trust between the parties. Varix drew on human technological innovation to propose shared development projects that would benefit both sides. As the simulation reached its climax, something unexpected happened. The students weren't just copying human methods, they were combining them with their own species' unique perspectives, creating new approaches to peacekeeping. Professor Xilax's form brightened with pride as he watched his students successfully defuse the crisis. Computer, end simulation. The chamber returned to its neutral state as Commander Torres and Ambassador Patel joined them for the final evaluation. What you've demonstrated today, Torres began, isn't just an understanding of human methods. You've shown why the Galactic Federation values Earth's contribution so highly. Ambassador Patel nodded in agreement. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't our military strength or our diplomatic skills. It was showing that transformation is possible, that a species can evolve beyond its martial origins without losing its strength. Professor Xilax moved to the center of the chamber, his crystalline form radiating with multiple colors. Your final assignment isn't a test or simulation. It's this. Take what you've learned about humanity's journey and apply it to your own worlds. Show your people that strength and peace aren't opposites, they're companions on the path to true civilization. As the students prepared to depart, each carrying new understanding back to their homeworlds, Klaxi approached Professor Xilax. I came here fearing humans were dangerous, she admitted, her arachnoid form moving gracefully. I leave understanding that they're necessary, not despite their warrior past, but because of how they transcended it. The professor's form pulsed with approval. And that, students, is the greatest lesson humanity has taught us. The species that master war are not necessarily the most dangerous. The truly remarkable ones are those who master peace while remembering the price of conflict. As the alien students filed out for the last time, Professor Xilax, Commander Torres, and Ambassador Patel watched them go, knowing that the seeds of understanding they'd planted would grow across the galaxy. Humanity's legacy would live on not through conquest or domination, but through teaching others how to transform their own civilizations. The lights in the chamber dimmed, but the legacy of Earth's journey from warriors to peacekeepers would continue to illuminate the path for countless species across the stars. In the end, humanity's greatest battle had been with itself, and its greatest victory was showing others how to win that same fight.